everybody, to today's Management Committee meeting. First, we'll start out with we've called to order, or do we, and we've got attendance, we don't have to do roll call anymore because we're in person?
Correct.
Okay, sorry, I'm still adjusting.
Okay.
I've missed a couple of meetings too. Thank you to Councilmember Gonzalez for filling in for me. And with that, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve? Oh, we don't need, I'm sorry, I'm still back in. And then we will do approval of the June 8th committee meeting minutes, which everybody's had in advance. So I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
We don't need a motion. No, just kidding.
Thank you, I'm losing my confidence here. So moved by Lilligren.
Second.
And seconded by Lee. Thank you very much. Any changes, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, no. And that passes unanimously. We'll now move on to our non-consent business, and our first item up is 20-22-170. It's our management of regional assets changes that we'll be making, and we'll welcome Marie Henderson, Deputy Financial Officer, and Deborah Rose, Manager of Asset Management Initiatives. Thank you for being here today.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. I am Marie Henderson, Deputy CFO, and with me here today is Deborah Rose, Manager of Asset Management Initiatives. And we are here today to present business item 2022-170, FM 8-1, Management of Regional Asset Policy. This management of region, good? Thanks, Greg.
You got some more stuff to say, so that's great.
This management of regional asset policy was originally two policies. A council-wide policy that was financially orientated and a divisional policy. This policy is now replacing those two original policies to one council-wide policy. This policy establishes council assets, both financial terms and physical terms. Fixed assets are defined as assets owned, operated, or leased by the council, which is real property, personal property, or equipment used in the Metropolitan Council's operation that is estimated useful life of more than 1 year and an initial cost of greater than $5,000. It is also the management of fixed assets that is included with state and federal and other requirements and are asset tagged. Physical assets counts are also completed. It also sets proper physical asset management in accordance with federal, state, and other requirements, the Institution of Asset Management and ISO 55,000 series standards. This policy is intended to set a unified expectation for all council employees to manage council assets safely in the public interest through establishing practices and the asset management procedures. This council-wide policy was reviewed by the Policy and Procedure Review Team. This review this team reviews all policies and procedures for consistency, clarity, and compliance. A representative from each division and regional administration serves on this team. This team is endorsed this policy to move forward to the management committee. The Thrive lens used on this was stewardship outcome for providing of the effective and efficient use of public financial resources. So, Madam Chair, the proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council adopt policy FM 8-1, Management of Regional Assets.
Thank you. Are there any questions for any of the speakers here on the policy? Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you. And it's more an observation than a question, and it's hard for me to know what are the changes if we don't have the old policy, or at least some way to compare what's being changed from the old policies to this one, like having a mark draft indicating the changes would be helpful. But besides the combination of both policies, are there any actual substantive changes to either of the policies that we're combining now?
So, Madam Chair and committee members, I can absolutely send you the two old policies. They are completely different. So everything would be redlined, but we can absolutely send it to you. The substance itself has not changed. The definition of fixed assets being $5,000 or greater than 1 year is exactly the same as the policy we had before, and that we asset tag them and we have physical inventories, and the physical side of that has also remained the same. It's just an absolute combining of it. So nothing of substance between the two has really changed.
Okay, that's good enough, thank you.
Any other questions? I think this is great. The one question I had is there, will there be a lot of change and integration as people now adopt this or will this be something that's pretty well put into place and assimilated to once it's official?
Right, so Madam Chair and committee members, we have to by GAAP do physical inventories and tag them, so it's not anything substantial again, but we have clearer procedures that need to be written and understood so that we all know we're on the same page council-wide when it comes to fixed assets.
Great, all right. Seeing no other questions or discussion, we'll move on to a vote then. Is there a motion to approve FM 8-1, the policy for management of regional assets?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Gonzalez,
Second.
seconded by Barber. Any further discussion? Seeing none then, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no, and that passes unanimously. Now we will move on to our next item, which is 2022-193. It's account payable payments policy, and we've got Marie who's going to walk us through this as well.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. Today to present business item 2022-193. It's FM 10-1 accounts payable payment method policy. This is a brand new policy. It has never been written before to create in response to an internal audit that we had on council's paper check process audit. On average, the council prints about 14,000 paper checks per year. Paper checks are high cost and high risk compared to electronic payments. This policy establishes guidelines and expectations that payments made to vendors will be the most cost-effective and efficient payment method. This means that the method is automated clearinghouse or ACH payment. In order then would be the second most cost-effective way would be by a P card, which is a purchasing card much like a credit card, and as long as no additional credit card fees are used. Third most cost-effective is an actual wire transfer. And fourth is a payment card to vendors. And lastly, then printing a paper check. This is a council-wide policy. Again, was reviewed by a policy and procedure review team. They review all the policies and procedures for consistency, clarity, and compliance. A representative from each of the divisions and the regional administration serves on this team, and the team endorsed this to move forward to the management committee. Thrive Lens used with stewardship in providing the most effective and efficient use of our public financial resources. So, Madam Chair, the proposed action is the Metropolitan Council adopt policy FM 10-1 for accounts payable methods.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? Councilmember Barber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have just a question. It's on page 2. For the purchasing card, it says P cards may be used to make these micro purchases valued up to $5,000 for all funding types and values up to $5,000 when purchasing from a MINCUP business or MCUP business. Is there a reason there's two separate lines when it's the same dollar amount?
It's just for clarity. If
Okay.
it's not an MCUB, it can be up to 5,000.
Okay.
And then if it's not, up to 10,000. I mean, if it is an MCUB, it's up to 10,000.
Okay, then there's a typo because it says 5,000 on both lines.
Then there's a typo.
Okay.
Good catch.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, bring it back then to the committee. I'm looking for someone who'll move the accounts payable policy as presented by Marie. And with the notation of the correction noted by Councilmember Barber, that would be included in the main motion. For someone to make that motion, Councilmember Lee? And who's-
Second.
Seconded by Gonzalez. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And that passes unanimously, so thanks, Marie, appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much.
Now we're moving on to some memoranda of understanding. So we've got up with us Marcy, Chief Labor Relations Officer. Welcome, Marcy. Our first item for Marcy is going to be 2022-197. It's the same week, and it's regarding Local 432.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. Yes, as the committee knows, we have been involved in a negotiations process with our police unions, negotiations for some market-based adjustments that will assist us with recruitment in what is currently a very difficult labor market and a shrinking pool of qualified applicants. The first business item addresses a memorandum of understanding with our full-time police officers. We currently have a bargaining agreement in effect January 1st, 2021 through December 31st of 2023. We reached a tentative agreement on some adjustments via a memorandum of understanding on June 24. This was ratified by the membership on the 27th of June. Under the Thrive Lens analysis, we think stewardship applies. It's a settlement that falls within the financial parameters established by the Council for Managing Labor Costs and Prosperity. The agreement represents a fair and reasonable wage settlement and demonstrates our commitment to our employees. This was negotiated within the parameters and policies established by this committee. And our proposed action is Metropolitan Council authorized the regional administrator to enter into a memorandum of understanding with LELS, Law Enforcement Labor Services, Local 432, full-time police officers.
Great, thank you, Marcy. Does the committee have any questions? Any discussion, any questions? Councilmember Gonzalez?
Just briefly, and this is just more for my understanding. So in this and other process involving the unions, so what is the stage once a tentative agreement has been reached? So the union approves, then it comes back here, and then what's the chain?
Madam Chair, Councilmember Gonzalez, you're just talking about the process
Yeah.
and how we implement?
Yeah.
So yes, once the council, assuming the council does approve these MOUs this evening, then we've got complete approval ratification from both union and the council, and we move forward and implement. The agreement or the decision really that we made administratively is that we could get these on the books or effective July 23 for employees. So, and it'll be, on whatever paycheck would follow that. I'm sorry, I don't have the date for that. So we did have an interest in implementing fairly soon because we want to be able to advertise these rates as soon as we can, and we'll do that after the council meeting this evening if it's approved, so we can get those postings out there.
Excellent, thank you.
Great. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I will seek a motion for item 197. It's the same week, memorandum of understanding between the Met Council and LELS, Local 432.
So moved.
Moved by Barber.
Second.
Seconded by Lilligren. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And that passes unanimously. And Marcy is going to bring us into another MOU between Met Council, LELS, Local 203.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. Local 203 is our supervisory unit in law enforcement. That's the sergeants and lieutenants. We have a contract in effect with them as well that was effective January 1, 2021 and expires actually December 31st of this year. We also negotiated a market adjustment that will apply to this group as well. We reached our tentative agreement with the union on June 28th. And was ratified by the membership on June 30th. Similar Thrive Lens analysis of stewardship falling within the financial parameters established by the Council for Managing Labor Costs and Prosperity, a fair and reasonable wage settlement for our employees. And again, these settlement parameters were established the settlement was negotiated within the parameters set by this committee last month. So our proposed action is authorizing the regional administrator to enter into an MOU with LALS Local 203 supervisors, sergeants, and lieutenants.
Great, are there questions on this item?
Madam Chair?
Councilmember
Yeah,
Moulton?
thanks Marcy. And I meant to ask this the last one too, because we're entertaining or voting on these three memoranda of understanding. And I'm just wondering about the wording of the proposed action, and it seems general and kind of vague. It doesn't reference the exact MOU that we're approving. It just says enter into an MOU. And so I'm just wondering, is that how we usually approve these, or?
It's a good question.
Madam Chair, Councilmember Lilligren, it's a little unusual because we do have a contract in effect.
Sure.
And we do from time to time enter into MOUs with bargaining units during the duration or term of agreements. I'm not aware of one that we've ever brought to the council before,
Okay.
but we are doing this because of the amount of money that's involved with these particular settlements. So we felt that it fell, within the authority of the committee to approve.
Cool, thanks, and I appreciate that, and certainly my concern doesn't limit my willingness to approve this today. And then there are references to the specific changes that we're making, and those have already been approved, right, as I'm understanding, by the bargaining unit, correct?
Correct, approved by the bargaining units, and of course reviewed by the management committee in a prior closed session.
Thank you, so I would just note that it's sort of vague language is all.
Yeah.
Thanks, thank you.
I think it's a very, very good point. Thank you, and thank you for clarifying. Councilmember Pacheco?
If the current contract ends at the end of this year, what's the length of this, what we're approving?
Madam Chair, Councilmember Pacheco, this is an increase to the base of police supervisory wages. So the wage increase is, effective immediately, and we will be back in negotiations for a 2023 contract sometime later this year. And we will have to make a decision about duration. They didn't want to agree to a 3-year deal. So it gets built into the base, so the increase is essentially, in perpetuity. Does that answer the question?
And I just want to clarify, so thank you, because I was going to ask you when we started bargaining again. But this change, if approved, then adjust the base in perpetuity, but we still have to renegotiate. So that's going to continue on regardless of, the new negotiation schedule.
Madam Chair, committee members, yes, it really, it becomes a new base for the supervisory group as we approach bargaining for 2023 wages. And as I mentioned, they weren't interested in doing a 3-year deal, and we decided not to push it last time. So all of our other agreements expire in 2023. This was an exception.
Great. Any other questions? All right, then seeing none, we'll look for a motion to approve this MOU between the Met Council and LALS Local 203 as described in the action before us.
Move approval.
Barbara moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Lee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And that passes unanimously. We've got one more on the agenda for Marcy, and that's another MOU between the Met Council, LALS, and this time it's Local 192.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. This is our third MOU to cover this particular market-based negotiations process. This is with our part-time police officers who are actually in a separate bargaining unit from our full-time police officers. Their agreement, like most of our others, expires December 31st of 2023. We do have a different system set up for our part-time officers. These are individuals that are actually employed with other police agencies. They are required to have a license with their home agency and work for us on a part-time basis, usually a few shifts a month. We actually have language in the contract that is essentially a Me Too, so that their wages do follow the police contract. We still entered into a formal MOU because we had some edits that we needed to make to the existing labor agreement, and we want to make sure that's all correct as we repost this online. Again, under the Thrive Lens analysis, the stewardship and prosperity elements, and also funding negotiated within the parameters set by the management committee. So the proposed action, authorizing the regional administrator to enter into a memorandum of understanding with LELS Local 192 part-time police officers.
Great. Any questions for Marcy? All right, looking for, again, a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between our council and LELS Local 192.
I'll move approval.
Barbara moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Lilligren. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, no. And that passes unanimously. So thank you, Marcy, for turning this around in a timely manner from the discussion that we have had previously. We really appreciate that, and hopefully it makes a very good impact within our law enforcement community. So great, thank you very much. And then I just had asked for just a brief, very brief update just on IS. You know, about a month ago, we talked about some urgency and needs in the IS department, and we, I think, are moving in a good direction, but I know there's been some changes happening, I think, on a positive front. And so I'm welcoming Craig Bantz, Chief Information Officer, who would just give us a brief update on where things are going with that.
Madam Chair, committee members, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much. I'm happy to present quite a bit of progress since we last spoke. And so I would like to break that down into both progress on the emergency declaration this committee approved, as well as broader progress towards realizing full staffing in the IT department. So first of all, the emergency declaration approved was for a hair under $4 million, you may recall, and to date we've issued contracts for about 50% of that value. So we've moved very quickly, and the majority of those contracts have been issued to MCUPs, which I think is an excellent sign that we continue to prioritize diversifying our vendor base. Roles we've contracted include especially information security and cloud engineers, folks who help us in our migration using the cloud. So not only are we filling essential roles, but we're starting to be able to make some progress on some of our kind of strategic move forward efforts. There also is an effort underway to put in place an RFP for professional services and temporary staffing. I spoke briefly about that last night. That'll alleviate the need for the emergency declaration when it goes into place. That RFP is nearly done being drafted, and we hope to have on the street this month. On July 27th, we'll be holding a vendor fair opportunity specifically targeted at MCUBs to create awareness in the community about what we're trying to achieve, both with the emergency declaration and with the RFP, so that we can have a hopefully very strong turnout amongst our MCUB community. And further, IS has made a strong commitment on that RFP and taken ownership rather than the vendors of achieving a goal, an MCUB goal of 25%, which is much higher than the typical MCUB goal on professional services. On the HR front, I'm very excited to share a lot of excellent progress we're making attracting people. First of all, we have brought on board a contracted recruiter that specializes in IT recruiting, and that has really made a difference. We've been able to leverage her connections with the community and expertise in IT-specific recruiting. We are continuing to seek a 2-year temporary council employee, so this would not be a contracted employee, but a temporary council employee to serve as a contractor, or to serve in that role in the long term. We weren't successful in the recruitment on that yet, but we're reposting the strategy to better target the market. Something I'm especially proud of, and has been a great piece of partnership with HR, has been working on an abbreviated and much expedited recruiting process for IS. So it about halves the period of time to take somebody from a posting through to a hire. And that really is helping improve our competitiveness in the market where our candidates are receiving multiple offers. And that's shaving 2 to 3 weeks off of the time to matriculation to start. And so that has been hugely valuable, and that went into effect July 5th. So we're starting to just see some of the advantages of that. And I can happily speak to 2 hires we've actually been able to do. One that took us 14 months it was posted. And we just secured a data architect slash engineer. This is a very competitive space right now, the kind of big data analytics space. And we were able to work with an MCUB recruiting vendor to find that hire, and it took us 2 weeks from connecting with that vendor to finding a qualified candidate to making an offer. And so it's just a significant expedition of what we've been doing. And we also hired an engineer 4, which I know is IT speak, but it's our most senior level IT person. And so that's another difficult area to hire in. So that's a brief update on what IT has been working on in strong partnership with HR.
Great, you've made a lot of progress in a month's time, so excellent. Does anyone have any questions? Councilmember Lillard?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Rams. Congratulations on the success. It's great to hear that report. And I have a question. You might have just answered it in your last statement, though, but I just wanted to know what I was reading in the New York Times, an article today about the challenges in recruiting workforce there, and they're just losing workforce to the private sector mostly. And this recruiting time was called, or the time between posting and hiring, and was called out as a specific reason for people not wanting to enter into public employment. So congratulations on reducing that time. And so I think, Mr. Vance, you said you reduced 2 to 3 weeks off the recruiting time, and then you gave us an example where it was like 14 months or something like that. So I'm just wondering, what was, when you say you reduced 2 to 3 weeks, what was sort of the average time?
Yeah, so the example I provided of that one position being posted for about 14 months is really a case where we had the position on our website and, at various other job sites, and we just weren't seeing either the caliber or volume of candidates we needed to secure somebody for the long term. And so what's helped change that and drive candidates is really the engagement with our recruiter resources that are, leveraging kind of more passive recruiting strategies. So that's when they're reaching out to people who may not actively be job seekers, but are in the community and have the right skill sets. So it kind of expands the job pool, if that makes sense, from just those looking at sites. That, we don't have enough data at this point to really tell what kind of like our average search to start date is yet. It does seem to be positive or trending well. Then the second kind of component, which is what I was speaking to with the cutting the time in half, is the time it takes us to get a position that we have a vacancy for posted, and then candidates through the evaluation and offer phase, if that makes sense. And so that we just empirically know is moving much faster.
Cool, thank you. Thank you,
And just a quick follow-up, and it's moving faster because just of all these new things that you have in place, and there's nothing legislatively or policy-wise that had been holding you back or anything like that?
Not to my knowledge. I really think it's from creative brainstorming from the HR team and IS team, thinking about how the process could be optimized and done in parallel in some locations rather than kind of one after another.
Great. Any other questions? Councilmember Lee?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks, Rick. Do we have any insights into if our folks are being poached? Who is poaching them and what other, besides financial incentives, what other reasons that they're doing a better job?
Absolutely. So we do an exit interview with every employee willing to do so. The vast majority have done so. And we, keep a kind of informal tabulation about where people are going, and even when employees volunteer what their salary at their new destination looks like, but we don't pry, some people do offer. And so we have the majority of folks going to the private sector, though there is some churn within other public entities. The number one driver has been compensation to date. Number two is really flexibility in our workplace schedule as another major factor for the team.
Thank you.
Great. Anything else? Just quickly, where is the vendor fair taking place at?
I would be happy to forward the information. I believe
Yeah.
we're doing it virtually in order to reduce barriers.
Yeah, if you
And
just let kind of cool down stuff.
Absolutely.
Nothing else on this? Well, thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And we appreciate your leadership on this. I mean, it's a big deal. We know that. And appreciate all the progress you and your team are making and everybody across the council who's adjusting to try to ramp up and get people in place, so thank you for that.
Absolutely, thank you, Madam Chair and committee members.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that should come before this committee today? Seeing none then, without objection, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
You.
Reiterate.